Hey, so this is Will with MachineLovers.com. Here to check out a series, walk through a series on what will be about visualizing Pokemon data. So this is for the our Reddit, our data is beautiful, September 2018 visualization of all information on all 802 Pokemon. The data is available at this Kaggle site where you can download the CSV. That's what I've done. And I'm just going to go walk through the first part of this tutorial, which is essentially getting Pokedex. So I want to build out Pokemon Pokedex. Have you ever seen the show? So it'll give various attributes of the Pokemon in their picture, and that's what I want to try to replicate here. So I'm going to bring in pandas, NumPy. I'm going to bring in this output notebook and run it so that we can actually see the results of the notebook in line instead of creating an output file. You'll notice also that I'm using Python 3, and for most of the tutorials moving forward, they'll be in Python 3. So in this first part of the series, we're going to get the Pokemon picture in a little window, and that'll be the Pokedex. And so if we can get the image of the Pokemon working, then that'll be good enough for this tutorial, and it'll show us how to sort of load this Pokemon data and work with it. So we're going to use this ISO 8895-1 encoding, and what that will do is bring in some of the ASCII characters that are in this data set. It'll bring them in more faithfully than using the default UTF-8. And so if we look at this data frame, we'll see that we have a bunch of columns against bug, against dark, against dragon. These are the relative strengths and weaknesses of this Pokemon. The first one, Pokedex 1, I think is Bulbasaur, and it just gives the different columns for that Pokemon. But we have as the index this abilities, which is a list of abilities of that Pokemon, and we don't want it to be the index. So what we can actually do is use this help function on the data frame generator to check out the different attributes of the function that we're using from CSV. We're pulling in the Pokemon CSV, making it into a data frame, and we can see that we used encoding. But what we want to do is this index column, they assume it's the first index is the one that you want to use. The first column is the index, but that's not true for us. So what we want to do is say the index column is actually none. And so that'll remove this abilities column as our index, which is good, which is what we want. Mostly just because it's annoying to look at as the index column. What we can do is basically a data frame describe, which will give us the count, 801 Pokemon, essentially 801 values for against bug. You can see the median here is 1, but there's some 1 or multiple Pokemon that have against bug at 4. So we want to sort of see, what we can do is like against bug, what are the unique values of this column? And you can see it ranges from 0.25 to 4, and I imagine only the strongest Pokemon have 4 against bug, attack ability. So we can list the other columns in our data frame. We see that there's a lot of againsts, which we'll use. I didn't know there was a dragon Pokemon. Base egg steps, I'm not sure what that is. Capture rate might be interesting. HP Japanese name, experience growth. I think we use that in coding because the Japanese names were getting truncated or cut off. Pokedex number we'll need when we get the image of the Pokemon, so that's good. We can look at the different types. Ghost, it's interesting. Fairy, fighting, psychic. Steel. They didn't have steel Pokemon when I was growing up. We can use head to take a look at the first 5 rows. There's a lot of percentage male, 88.1. It's kind of interesting. Why do they have such high percentage male for some of these Pokemon? It's kind of strange. Why would they do that? If anybody knows the show and can understand like why you would have so many, like the ratios would be off, that'd be interesting to find out. Okay, so now let's actually go through and make that Pokedex window where we can see our Pokemon. And to do this, we're going to use this GitHub library for Pokemon sprites. So on Git, there's a repository that contains all of the Pokemon sprites, and I actually just downloaded it into the place where my notebooks live, and so that I can actually query it. So you see that 1.png is going to be Bulbasaur. Okay, so now what we can do is try to create that window, and what I'm doing here to create that window is actually going to modify another drop down that I had seen, and I'm accidentally deleting some of the cells that I did not want to delete. But essentially what we're going to do is create a column data source, a source data set, and this will give us the widths and heights. Let's start off with 30 of our Pokemon, where they want to start off on the plot, and then the path here is going to be the path to the sprites themselves, and then X is just going to be the number of Pokemon that we want to look at. And so I essentially set a range here and then create a plot, no title, with these ranges from -100 to 200. This doesn't particularly matter. It's just, you just need enough space to look at the Pokemon. Plot width, plot height. This will be important when creating our Pokedex layout dashboard, which we'll do in another video. Borders. And so this, what we're going to do is add a glyph that's an image. So it'll take all of these items from the data source and use them to plot it. So this x = 1 should give us a plot with Bulbasaur, which it does. You can see right down there. And what's fun is that we can increase Bulbasaur's width and height so we can actually see him. On this, because I'm using these ranges, if I just do so if he's located at 0, 0, we might want to do -100 to 100, and then he should be centered now, which he is, and then we can increase his size. Maybe don't want to make him too big. That doesn't look great. So that looks fine. We might play around with the sizing here, but then we can see other Pokemon, like what is Pokemon 100? I don't know. Like later on, there are 800 Pokemon, so you can pick like 4, 5, 6. What's Pokemon 4, 5, 6? You'll see this thing, whatever that is. So just because I'm interested, 6, 7, 8 is this one. So that is the code that will generate, that will take us from the CSV of the data of Pokemon from Kaggle that doesn't have any of the pictures of the sprites. We clone and download the sprites to sort of a local place, and then we can access them. And if you're wondering how I got this library, I just went to Git and clone, and then you just copy this, and on a terminal, if you have a terminal application, you just will launch that and do, you know, anyway, the git clone should work to bring it down for you and get it onto your desktop, and then you can run this code that we're just going over in this notebook and get this code to work. And so we'll go from here into fleshing more of our Pokedex out, including, we'll go from here to fleshing out more of our Pokedex, including having a drop down to change dynamically which Pokemon is being viewed here, and then we'll add some other interactions and stats and charts into our Pokedex, and that will be the next few videos. Thanks for watching.